There's like a bowl in there and stuff now. They don't have Dollar Night anymore either. It's a
Oh,
shame.
kind of like PBR
Damn
at
shame.
P&L.
Yes,
It is a
yes,
shame.
yes.
Tommy, have you ever heard of the acronym CDS?
Um, I feel like I'm walking into something here, but no, I haven't.
There's, it's a big thing. It's been going around the last couple years, and it's got it's just a term we use for people that are just completely deranged, right? That's where the D comes from. It's Chiefs derangement syndrome, and this weekend after Sunday's win against the Bengals, the CDS has been exploding all over Twitter.
You see, I've heard the term Chiefs derangement syndrome. I don't think I've heard it in the acronym before, because I have heard that term.
Yeah, I don't know, Tommy, if you've spent too much time on Twitter post Sunday's Chiefs win over the Bengals, but there are a lot of very unhappy Bengals fans.
Well, that's understandable. I get it. I get it. Do I agree with it? That's something else. But I get why they're frustrated. I'll put it that way. I understand it. I understand it. As someone who is a Raiders fan, where the NFL is against us always, constantly, and if you ask any Raider fan, they'll agree with me. Um, yeah, I'd say this. Why I have a question for you now, Ty Bob.
Mhm.
Why is it that I don't want to say half, that sounds excessive. Why is it that like a decent chunk of Chiefs games every year for the last like 2 or 3 years, we're sitting here talking about referees at the end of the game and post game.
Oh, I
Did
can
Why
answer
that?
is
that for
why is
you.
that?
Go ahead.
Well, mainly because the Chiefs are the only team that actually capitalizes on those penalties.
Well, that's what
If
good football teams do. Like that's what the Patriots did, and that's why everyone thought it was rigged for the Patriots, because that's what I was going to lead into. It's
That's
like
what I was gonna say.
good teams know how to take advantage of mistakes.
That's exactly where I was gonna go. Is now do the Chiefs tend to probably get a few more calls than comparative other teams? Probably. Probably. I mean, your good teams are always going to get the benefit of the doubt more often than not. If
Hmm.
you're a bad team and you don't know how to get those calls, sometimes you got to embellish it a little bit. Look at soccer. Those dudes are
Yeah.
rolling around out there on the floor until they get a whistle. I mean, sometimes you just have to embellish it a little bit more. But the referees are going to pay attention in those moments more often than not, especially in those big games. Whereas, like, I think
Okay,
I
okay,
was
okay. Let me pause you there really quick. Why aren't they paying attention for the other 3 quarters though? That's where the frustration comes from. It's like, okay, we can't have the fourth quarter be completely different than the rest of the game.
sure. So let me ask you this: if it's happening more often in the fourth quarter than any of the other 3 quarters, why is it the other teams are committing penalties in the fourth quarter when the game matters more than the other three
Well, see
quarters?
now, okay, so again, I like there's a rebuttal to what I said,
is a
which is
question
like,
off.
well, everybody is just working that much harder to make a play later in the game. And when that
Exactly.
happens,
And I
you
think there
get a hands to
becomes
the face, you get a
exhaustion.
hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's exhaustion. Players are tired, they're fatigued, they're trying to work a little bit harder. And so your reps get a little sloppier. The problem is it's always not the Chiefs who are a little bit sloppier.
Yeah.
And so we get the benefit of those calls because we're not sloppy. We're tight. We've got these things put together. I won't say that we're always like we're never making those mistakes. The Chiefs make
Hmm.
those mistakes, and 9 times out of 10, those mistakes get called. Look at last year with Jawan Taylor being the most penalized football player in the entire NFL. There's stats to back those up. If you don't
Super
believe
Bowl.
me, it's called Google. Um,
I
yeah,
would say the Chiefs they get their subbing plays out in the first 3 quarters and tighten it up in the fourth. That's the big difference between everybody else.
that as well.
I would say too, and this is always like rang true in coaches. This is like a coaching cliche, but like the harder you work, the more breaks you get. And I think that was one thing that I think resonated with those Patriots teams is like they're probably working so hard that like they're earning those You know, like each team can only do so much in a week to prepare for a football game. That some things are going to come down to a coin flip, you know, whether the ball bounces the right way or the wrong way for you. And I think the teams that work harder end up getting those lucky bounces. They end up getting those calls that benefit them. Well, whether it's to benefit them or not, like they just good teams. I don't even like saying get lucky, but like good things happen to good teams. Good things happen to teams that work hard. And I think I definitely think too, like I was pretty frustrated with how that game ended. And I wasn't frustrated at the result. I was just really frustrated with the officials and how like the officiating happened in the fourth quarter. Now that it's Tuesday though, eh, is what it is. I mean, if you think it wasn't pass interference, you just don't know football in my humble opinion. And and if you disagree with that, like go read a rule book and you know go like watch like an officiating like teaching video, honestly.
I'll agree with that every day of the week. If you want to argue, you can't argue that it's not a penalty. The pass
No, no,
interference
not
call.
at
You
all.
can't argue that. If you want to argue that you shouldn't be making those calls in that point of the game where it's very close and it's going to be a game deciding penalty, I can sit here and have that conversation with you and see your point of view. At the same time, you still throw the flag every single day of the week. If it's a penalty, it's a
Mhm.
penalty, it's a penalty.
A penalty is a penalty is a penalty. Yeah.
You throw the flag, because if the roles were reversed, yeah, I'm going to be upset that the referee called it, and maybe I'll be on the side that, hey, maybe that's a weak call. But at the end of the day, if I'm sitting there looking at the film and seeing that a defender got there early, I'm I can't disagree that it is a penalty. We've been on the
Well, you,
opposite side of those calls,
hmm
and sometimes one of the places where I wanted to go with that is, like, you were talking about the good teams usually benefit from getting the calls. Well, also, if you and I want to talk about the later portion of this a little later in the show, but if you don't disparage a referee, you're probably going to get a call 9 times out of 10 going your way. You
dude, the
look back
fact
at that.
oh man.
Look back at that in the it was the Chris Jones situation. I believe it was
Yep.
against the Colts a few years ago, where he said something to the quarterback after he took him down. The referee didn't like it. We got the flag, and then we ended up losing the game. So don't disparage a referee. You might get a benefit of a call here and there.
I'll even make a caveat to that. Don't disparage the white cap. You can piss off a line judge, you can piss off an umpire. Dude, if you piss off the white cap, like you're up shit's creek without a paddle
Handled,
at that point.
handled. Well, we've
But
had enough. We've had enough talk about the penalties. That stuff happens. That's within the game. Fans of the Bengals, be as deranged as you'd like. You're still our little brother. You'll do nothing. You'll be nothing. And this trend will continue.
more like a cousin, more like a cousin, right? They're not
Yes,
even in the division. You're just
three
like a
times
distant,
removed.
annoying, yeah, second,
Ugly
third
cousin.
removed cousin, ugly.
Uh, uh,